Hello, 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 everyone. How is everyone doing? I am checking a few things before we get started. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is Wellness Wednesday, and I'm super excited that you all will be joining me for a very important topic. So, welcome. Give me just one second. Yes, gotta get this light in. But more importantly, we're going to have a very fun topic today because we're going to be talking about budgeting. And so I'm super excited to have this discussion with everyone. And we will be getting started here in just a second. Happy Wednesday. Welcome, everyone. I'm going to tell you, right before I got ready to go on here, literally something is wrong with the internet. And I think it's because they really don't want me to talk about this today. So that means it's even more important that I talk about this because my internet just crashed. And so thank goodness I had a hotspot. And that's how we're bringing this to you today. So, super excited to be here. And today's topic is all about budgeting 101. Um, this is obviously April, and it is a lot of different things are going on this April. One of those things is it is Financial Literacy Month, as well as is National Housing Month. So, a lot of great things that I'm near and dear and very much excited to be about and to be a part of, rather. I'm definitely excited to bring that conversation to you all. So, I definitely want to go ahead and get started. We will just jump into it. Thank you, thank you. Welcome, welcome to you. Today is Wednesday, and today's topic, everyone, whether we want to talk about it or not, is something that I feel like we need to talk about, and it is all around budgeting and saving. And so for those who excuse me, for those of you who don't know me, I am Brandy Harrington. I am a principal broker here in Jackson, and I am author of the Coins Journal. And one of the things, the reason why budgeting is so very important and why we're going to be talking about it today, even as I think about my experience in terms of, obviously, for those who are looking to buy a house, why budgeting is important. I think I wanted to take a different approach this month as we're thinking about budgeting. We're thinking about this being obviously Financial Literacy Month and really helping people understand budgeting. All right. So, in order for me to be able to prepare for this conversation, I'll be honest with you all, I did some research. I really wanted to know exactly about this topic because if you're anything like me, I'm just going to use myself as an example. My mother was an accountant, but guess what? She did teach me about budgeting. She did teach me about at least finances, let's say that. And I naturally liked to budget. My mother used to tell me all the time that I could
So that
budget,
means it's even more important.
like for a lot of different things. Like I was that person that will budget naturally. And for me, growing up, knowing my mother was an accountant, she was always quizzing us about money. I just became much of a stickler for numbers in terms of like planning where my money was going and things of that nature. So one of the things that I looked up as it relates to budgeting and financial literacy, as you all know that this is Financial Literacy Month, is some stats. And I was very surprised to see a couple things. And the reason why I want to bring this into this conversation is because I think it's not a conversation we like to talk about. If you are in the process of buying a house, or if you're in the process of getting married, or you're married, oftentimes if you ask couples about budgeting and finances, it's like, we're not going to talk about that. And it's almost like a taboo conversation to have. So, one of the things that I looked up in terms of budgeting as it relates to this conversation is to figure out where did it start from. And it said that 17% of students were required to take at least one semester of personal finance in high school. I also went on to find that 1 in 4 parents never talk about household finances. Think about that. 1 in 4 never talk about household finances with their children. Okay. So, again, think about all of these things and see if you qualify or if you have ever even experienced this, even in your own family. Now, for those of you who may be watching me, I'm sorry I didn't put my disclaimers out. If you decide to give me a comment, and definitely let me, I do want to hear from you all. You have to give Facebook permission to be able to show that to StreamYard. So make sure you definitely give that feedback, or excuse me, that those rights to them so they can be able to allow me to be able to see you so I can be able to address your comments as it relates to this topic. All right, so going back again to statistics. The other statistic I found very interesting was the Federal Reserve. And it said that in 2020, 64% of American households said that they would pay for um, unexpected expenses of about 400 through cash, savings, or credit card. So in 2020, only 64% of Americans said they use that type of or have at least $400 rather as it relates to an unexpected emergency. Another statistic said that 18% of workers who make over $100,000 are living check to check. Now, guys, did you hear what I just said? 18% of people who make over $100,000 are living check to check. 59% of adults in the US admit to living paycheck to paycheck in 2019, according um, to another statistic. And then it said that Bankrate in 2020, in August of 2020, said that 21% of US adults had no emergency savings. And we're going to touch about that today. And then we've seen that in 29% of people say they don't have any income saved. That's what it says. The 29% of Americans say they don't have any of their income saved. And so the reason why we're talking about budgeting is that we know things are going to come up, right? This is National Literacy Month. We have trillions of dollars that has been obviously in deficits from credit cards, student loans, all of these things, but yet we don't even talk about it because if you think about it, in high school and even on to college, we were not even asked or nor were we put in a classroom where we could talk about budgeting. So we literally are raising generations where no one talks about money, no one talks about how to be able to obviously save, how to be able to even save for a down payment, how to pay for credit cards, and then we have a system where we continue to grow up and there is nothing in the event of an emergency. And we obviously think that our emergencies are use your credit cards in order to pay for. So my question is, how is that going to be able to be sustainable if every time we have an emergency, and then again, we have to define emergencies, right? What is really a true emergency in your household? And I'm not saying that lightly, but I'm saying that to say where it warrants every time we have something happen that we are going to use our credit cards. Because that's what we have to tell ourselves. That's what we have to think about as it relates to um, this topic. And that topic really has to deal with making sure we are budgeting and budgeting appropriately. Okay. The other thing that I want to make sure that we talk about with this is we definitely want to talk about why this is important. Um, the reason why I say that we need to talk about why this is important is because if you think about it, if we're literally having children or we're steady going around and we don't know how to save, then help. How do we tell it? Well, our children watch everything. How do they know what to do? How do your children know how to be able to deal with life events if all they've seen is you in the event of an emergency? Then you go get a credit card. And then when you get this credit card, your children think, oh, well, that's how we deal with emergency. We get a credit card and we slide the credit card. And that's how I deal with an emergency because our children are watching, our children are noticing everything that we're doing. So we have to be very mindful that as we are literally making doing these type of things and we're talking out loud because I know I have daughters at home and they watch everything, right? And so if I don't have the conversations with my daughters now about budgeting and finances, who do I think is going to have that conversation with them? Because they're looking at me, they're looking at their father, they're looking to figure out how to be able to deal with money. And if it's not talked about in a sense where they're seeing it in application, then I'm literally raising them to say, well, you figure it out. And I'm not saying that a lot of that has not been done to us in terms of, when I say us, I mean collectively, but in terms of us and our age group, in terms of where we are. But we literally just heard that only 17% of US students are required to take 1 semester. It just said 1 semester of personal finance. So we're not seeing them teach personal finance in school, guys. How do we expect our children to learn about personal finance and budgeting and savings? We have all this debt that's going out. We have all these things that's going on. And then our children are saying, well, mommy, daddy never really talked to me about it. And so we literally are literally seeing more and more people when it gets down to those other statistics talking about living paycheck to paycheck. And then we're getting married and we're having families, and then maybe our spouses don't have that conversation with us either. Maybe we just say, okay, how much you gonna pay, how much you gonna pay, what's your bills on this, you gonna take care of the house note and I take care of everything else. Maybe that's really the reality of what we're seeing as it relates to finances, right? Or maybe you have a checking account, I have a checking account, and then we have a household checking account, right? But if that's how you and your spouse are definitely um, navigating for that, but that's fine. But the point is, how do you all start dealing with the unexpected, right? How do you all deal with an emergency? And then let's tie that into, if you as a female are the only one that knows how to deal with all of the finances because you pay all the bills. Again, this leads over into why the Coins Legacy Keeper was created. How does your family know how to deal with that if the only person that knows about finances is you? So you see why this is a topic that we really have to talk about. Are you understanding why this is something that we can't keep saying, oh, well, I can just talk about this later, or maybe in some other capacity, we can just think that it's okay to have this conversation when finances, if you look at the statistics with 59% of the adults in 2019 living paycheck to paycheck, or we're seeing people who make over $100,000, 18% of them are living check to check. So we're not talking about money, we're not budgeting. And so that's what today's conversation is really going to be about, is really making sure that we are having this conversation, because in life, when we think about the things that we want to do, the places we want to go, the goals, the dreams, whether it's buying a house, real estate investments, planning for a vacation, even an emergency, we have to think about budgeting and how we can be able to do it and do it easily. And then, more importantly, making sure that we just are making sure that life could happen and we need this extra money. Okay. So this month is all about that theme. And I just want you all to understand that I'm going to bring some guests in and we're going to have this conversation because I want to empower you all to understand the benefits with budgeting. There's benefits in budgeting. There's actually some wealth and some power there too, and we're going to talk about it here in a few minutes. But so I really did a lot of background in some terms of why this is important. It's important because in the event that you all are looking to be able to purchase something, example as a house. You know, when I sit down and have buyers consultations with my clients, I always ask, "Well, do you have any money saved up?" And I get various things. And one of the things is that people have a misconception that they just are going to just get a house because they think that there's money out here. True, there's money in programs that you could qualify for. However, you may not because of your debt to income ratio, and that's another conversation for another day. So if that does not happen, then that means you have to have some money saved and or have access to money to be able to purchase the house. Now, the confinements of this conversation, we're going to talk about you saved the money, okay, yourself. But in order for you to be able to save for that, you should have been diligently months before you decided to buy this house, putting this money up. But if you didn't, no shame, then let's talk about why. Let's talk about how to properly budget. Because I'm gonna be honest, it's not a conversation that you really think about. You know, you think, well, just budget, right? But how do you budget? Well, that's what we're talking about. You budget by writing down or using maybe Excel, maybe you're into apps, whatever that looks like for you, but you're showing yourself and you're writing down what happens with your money. You have to give your money a destination, because if you don't, let me tell you what happens. You'll see money go from here, there. Some may come up, and you're not prepared for it. And that's why we see people living check to check, is because we literally are not writing down in the beginning of the month what is going to go out. Now, there's some things that you know is not going to change. The bills in terms of You're gonna have a mortgage or a rent. You're gonna have a car note. You're gonna have certain things that may fluctuate, like gas bill, light bill, cell phones. That's fine. But when it comes to other stuff, you may have to budget for that. And the reason why I'm saying you may have to budget for that, because if you're going on a vacation and you want to go to this vacation debt free, maybe you already know this year you want to go to Disney World later on this year. Well, then let's start allocating a budget for that trip. It shouldn't be like, let's just put it on a credit card. Well, okay, even if we put it on a credit card, how are we going to pay it off if we're not telling our money when we get it every month that we have to spend a credit card? So I think the reality of it is, until you sit down and actually start saying, okay, what am I getting every month? How is my income going out of my house? And then let me see what I have over for these type of events. Then we will realize where we need to cut some stuff out. And then more importantly, how we need to start putting money in different other institutions, such as a savings account, emergency, and if it's for something big, for whatever that may be. Okay. The reason why I'm saying emergencies is because, number one, if you think about, something's going to happen in your house. Somebody, if you have children, if you have events, cars, whatever, right? Something's going to come up that you are not expecting, and you're going to be like, where am I getting the money for that? Now, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to tell y'all a story, okay? And this is a personal story. I think most people know about this. So, before I went full time, I used to work in corporate America, and I got laid off. Yes, I got laid off. Not one time, I've gotten laid off twice when I worked in corporate America. And I remember the first time I got laid off. Like, y'all don't understand. I remember getting laid off, and I remember what it felt like not knowing how I'm going to pay my bills. And that first time I got laid off, I remember getting the notice, getting on that call. You know how everybody got to get on the call, and something's going to happen because everybody's on this call, right? And I remember, they were like, we're downsizing, whatever. And I was like, oh my goodness, what am I gonna do? Right. And it's at that time. Now, again, if you had listened to the beginning, my mother was an accountant. So she taught me numbers. She taught me about money a little, in the sense where you got to know where your money going, right? So I just remembered that. And so when I got laid off, I remember that first week of no longer having to get up and go to a job. And I sat there for that 2 or 3 days, and was, after the shock wore off, and was like, okay, now how am I gonna pay my bills? But because I'm a person who writes things down, if you were to come in the inside of my house, you see notebooks, you see things written. I have spreadsheets because I am a person who is a planner. I've told you. And so I write a lot of stuff down. But I'm saying that to say, I remember that first week sitting there and saying, okay, I don't have a job now. What am I going to do? And I remember trying to figure out what to do. Because you think about it, if you lost your job, this is number one, it's an emergency, right? Number two, you still got to pay these bills. I still have to pay rent. I still had to pay my mortgage. I had car note. I had like some little small bills. I had all these things to do, but I didn't have a job. And I'm sitting up here saying to myself, what am I going to do? Well, at first, I was kind of happy, because then it was like, if I'm being honest, I was tired. I was getting up early doing all these things. And so I just said, okay, I'll think about it later. So later turned into another couple of weeks. And then by this time, 2-3 weeks in, I'm like, okay, now I go look for a job. Well, guess what, guys? I didn't find a job immediately. It wasn't like I was just, because from where I was trying to go, and in regards to the type of job that I wanted, there wasn't just not a lot of jobs like that. So I literally was without a job, not 1 month, not 2 months, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6. It wasn't until month 7. You heard me, 7. I found a job. Now I know y'all like, no, yes. Literally, I was sitting there jobless for 7 months, no income. Now, I think on this particular layoff that I had, I did have to utilize, our, if for those of you who don't know, I'm in Mississippi. So my little $235 weekly, what is that, unemployment? Yeah, $235. Okay. So I did get unemployment. Let me put those buffers out there. But that's it. Now I'm saying that to say $235 a week. Now it's like, yes, it's some income. I'm not doubting it. But my mortgage, my mortgage, I still had a mortgage, I still had a car note. So even if I paid those two, I ain't have any money. But guess what? Because I was saving. In the event of an emergency, when I would get my checks, I would always allocate money to my savings for an event of an emergency. So I literally started to incorporate this throughout each paycheck. And I would just tell myself, okay, this is how much I'm gonna put over there. This is how much I'm put over there. This is how much I'm gonna put over there. And so over time, that little small, where most people say, oh, that's not but $25. If that's what you have, start with where you are. That $25, when you look up, can be thousands of dollars that you just have sitting in your savings account. But you have to be able to know that you can't touch this money. This is not those, hey, you know what? I'm about to get ready to go out, but I need some money to go and get whatever or hang out this weekend. This is literally for an event of an emergency. And that's what I did with my savings account. I built it so that when that, if something were to happen, I could not be sitting there like I was sitting there with just that unemployment money. And that's it. And 7 months later, I don't have any income, no real income coming in. And yet I'm literally sitting with bills that are beyond me. I remember it was so bad that at one point of being unemployed, I said, you know what? I'm gonna find a job at some point. Now, again, I'm saying this in month 4 or 5, saying, okay, it's about to come. But I literally realized that at that point I had to step outside my comfort zone and realize that I still had certain things, and I would go and volunteer at the Stew Pot. Thank you, Stew Pot, for taking me in. But I did that because you know what? My situation at that time seemed desperate and seemed despair, and to the point where I thought I wasn't going to be able to find another job. But I realized that when I gave my time to other people, where it took my mind off of it, more importantly, it just made me realize what I did have. So let me go back to now, obviously budgeting. So the reason why I'm bringing that story is that I don't want y'all to feel like I'm far removed from emergencies or things where things don't happen. There's certain things happening right now that at some point I'm gonna share with you all. But the point is, budgeting and saving is what helped me during that time because I was able to write my bills down, write down what was going out, write down where I needed to be able to have this emergency fund. And most people, when they heard that story and they realized, like, Brandy, you was off work for 7 months and you didn't have any real income. Yeah, that's the power of budgeting. I told you there's benefits in there. Now, again, I still ate every day. I wasn't eating ramen noodles and stuff like that. I was just literally cutting back on the things that I did. I may not have been able to just, no, I ain't gonna say that I ain't gonna get my nails done because I did. I just may not have gone and did certain things like hanging out and maybe buying coffee or going out to eat. But I had my basics, my roof, my food, I had money to go buy groceries and things like that. I had that type of money in my house. And so that's the reason why I'm telling you why budgeting is so important because something could happen. If you have two incomes coming in and only one person where you all are used to that money and then that income's and they're the breadwinner, what happens? If you're using all your money to go shopping and hanging out, what happens to your family if that income is cut? The reason why I'm saying this is important is that we have to start thinking about this because the economy is going, and of course we're coming out of COVID. We seen a lot of money come in through different programs and things of that nature. But the reality of it is guys, this money may be drawing up, and if it dries up rather, and we don't have money in place, and let's say that additional support and things that we've been used to getting, if we don't get those things, how are you going to be able to survive? You got to start putting that money in and putting it up now. Okay. I will talk about really quickly. I do have a PDF version of this is a simple basic budget that you can do today. And you can just start looking at this is the 6th of the month. Look at your bank records and start writing out what you've been spending and start being able to see where your money is going. Because oftentimes when I ask people this, they say, I don't know where my money goes. I just spend it. And I say, okay. And then, or I'll get someone who says, hey, I want to get into real estate investments. I'm like, okay, well, how much money do you have saved up? Well, I don't really have any money. I just thought I could just, can I get a loan for that? No, depending on the, you got it's several other factors that have to go in there. The bank wants to see that you have some skin in the game too. So you have to realize that there's certain things that have to be in place before you just jump into certain, do events, whether it's a new business, whether it's real estate, whether it's starting a business, you still have to do your part too. And one way to do your part is to save some of your money. Cut back on some of the things that you don't need, and maybe just say, you know what, I don't need instant gratification. To do what? Save for people here on, social media who may or may not have everything going on, and it's just a filter. And I tell people all the time, do not get caught up on what we see in social media all the time, because yes, we're only giving, me included, I have to say, I can't get excited about everybody else's stuff because you don't know what they're going through. You don't know what's going on in the background. If you are working on a goal, and that's the purpose of budgeting, it's maybe a savings goal of $1,000. Maybe it's a savings goal to be able to go on a vacation or buy a house or put something up for real estate investments. This is a goal. You name the goal. You're responsible for the goal. The point is, you just have to work on the goal. Okay. I'm seeing a comment. It says, sadly, we don't even think about a savings account until we need the cash and we don't have it. Exactly. We don't think about saving for what? Who do is almost like where they do that at, right? Because we think that savings is something just so far removed. We think that, oh, who does that? I'll just swipe it on my credit card. Swipe right, swipe left. But guess what? You still have to pay that credit card bill. And if you're thinking about buying a house, let me help you. That debt to income ratio that I talked to you all about earlier, it's real. Because if you're having so much debt out here that you want to buy this $300,000 house, but more your income is going out to debt, such as your car, this credit card bills, student loans, et cetera, that's less house that you can afford. If you want to buy a $300,000 house on a $60,000 salary, if that's your goal, have no debt. The bank can say, well, again, maybe not 60, but the point I'm making is you have to be able to stay within your means. Okay. You definitely don't want to over exceed your budget. Definitely need to understand that this is something that, although it's not discussed, although this is something that we think that is so far removed, we want things in life, and yet we don't want to wait to get it. But then there's an emergency happens. You have a blowout on your tires. You need to get the car and things, repaired. Something happens, Lord forbid, you have a family emergency where you got to fly off to somewhere, emergency at the middle of the night, or someone of your family members get sick. How are you going to get to them if everything that you're spending out is already overspent? How can you even help them if you don't budget? Okay. So the reason why we're talking about this, the reason why this is very important for today is that oftentimes we are trying to keep up with people that it doesn't really matter. Stop trying to help and make everybody else think you got certain things going on. Just either turn your social media off, put your head down, save your money, save your coins, whatever that is. And then when you come back, then come back to social media. But you have to budget when we're looking at over 59% of people living check to check. If you are thinking about things that could potentially happen, such as we're having events where people are losing their jobs, people are getting sick and staying unemployed. Again, I just told you about what happened to me. And yet we have to realize that if these things occur, how can our families or our children or spouses, significant others still be able to pay and or operate if we don't have any money saved up? So, guys, I know this is not a fun conversation, but being that this is Financial Literacy Month, I think it's something that we just have to start talking about. We can't keep, bossing up for all these different events, showing up, we gonna get flued out. Yes, I said the word wrong, but we're flying out for all these different things. And I'm not saying don't take vacations, but what I'm saying is that we just got to do it in a manner where we're still making sure we're taking care of our households, such as a savings account and or having different money saved for various events that may occur, because emergencies will come up. And all I'm saying is that you just want to prepare yourself and your family's resources for an emergency should it occur. Okay, so I'm almost out of time. As you can see, I'm very passionate about finances because I see it in so many aspects as it relates to getting into a home, as it gets into trying to do, even for those who maybe want to get into real estate investments, as it relates into getting into having, vacations planned for the end of the year, whatever that looks like, buying a new luxury brand bag, whatever. The thing I want to make sure we stress, even with all of those things, make sure you have a savings account. Make sure you have some money saved for an event of emergency, and make sure you're budgeting with what you have. I am going to draw. I will leave a link with a basic budget. It's super simple. If you all want an Excel spreadsheet version, I'll have that too. The one that I use, I even have one for couples. Okay, and the couple A hit their money over there, and you all, couple B, A and B, and then you can see where you all can start saving together, right? And see how you can build wealth, because when there's more than one person to help you build wealth, you can actually build wealth faster. Another conversation for another day. But the point is, when you have two incomes coming in, you can be able to build that nest egg up and or savings account up a lot easier and faster. And for whatever you all are working your goals to, you can see that on that spreadsheet too, and there'll be some different links for there. But at the end of the day, today's budgeting 101 is just to say start this month. Start writing down all of the things that you have spent out, and realizing when you start writing it down, the reason why I say write it down first is because you will then start seeing exactly how much money you're spending. When you start adding up that Starbucks bill or that coffee bill, or maybe it's out to eat bill, or whatever that looks like, when you start seeing how much money you're spending in a month on these things, you'll be like, wow. And then you'll start being more cognizant of it. And then that's how you have extra income. You have that income when you cut some of those events out. Maybe you don't need to go get coffee every month. Maybe it's, or eat out every day. Maybe it's eating out maybe once a week. Because look how much money you spent in just that week with Uber Eats, right? Let's just be honest. Uber Eats is super simple. Let me just put it in my phone. But if Uber Eats is taking up $300 every month of my money, is Uber Eats that important now? Especially when I'm already trying to budget for something else. So I'm just saying that out of so much love for everyone, to say, guys, let's start budgeting our money and storing it and where we want it to go, as opposed to just reacting in the event of an emergency. And then now we don't have anything but to either go borrow the money, put it on a credit card, and or financially put ourselves in more situation and more debt. Okay. So thank you all so much for today and for listening. I will be back next week with a guest who will be talking about this subject even more. And so it may run over a little bit, but more importantly, she will be giving you tips on how you can help budget your money, as well as being able to put you in a better situation for investments, as well as how to look at money, and then how to be able to save as well. So thank you so much for listening. I look forward to talking with you all next week. We will change the time due to her schedule. It will not be on Wednesday. It will be on Friday, but I will send more details for all of that to come as it gets closer. But thank you so much. And again, if you know anybody that needs to know about this, that needs to have this conversation, definitely ensure that they're here. This is I'm trying to condense this as much as I can in the confinements that we have, but this is such a needed topic because we're seeing more and more people who need this information, and of course, and it's free, right? You definitely have them in the room. So next Friday we will have this conversation. There is a Coins Wealth Building community that I definitely want to make sure that if you're not a part of it, please ask to join our community. We're going to be doing special things within that community. I'm not going to share it out on this one. So if you are not a part of our community, please join the Coins Wealth Builder group. And this is where we're going to do more things inside that group, just for the people and the members that are there. The other thing is, if you want to be able to make sure that should something happen and you are not prepared, and you're the only one that knows where everything is, I definitely want you to go to www.mycoinsjournal.com, get you a Coins Legacy Keeper, and make sure that your family, in the event of an emergency, right, has everything in one place to be able to access your personal information. There's no need to be scrambling. There's no need to be able to figure out, I think they left it here. Well, maybe they left it over there. No, go to the Coins Legacy Keeper, get it completed. We will be having some classes, but especially for people who want that accountability piece to make sure that you can get this completed. And at the same time, we're going to go over some budgeting tips as well as some other different things that only will be found in that VIP session. Okay, so definitely make sure you get a Coins Legacy Keeper as well as being able to join the group. Okay, so thank y'all for hanging in with me a few minutes over. I appreciate it, and I look forward to talking with you all next week. Make sure you tag some people to be here as well as replay the video because a lot of things were discussed as it relates to your budgeting. And I'll have those links here listed below on how to be able to get your versions of your own personal budgeting so you can start this month. Okay, guys, thank y'all so much. And I look forward to talking with you all soon. Have a great day. Bye bye.